Junji Ito could hit me with his car and I'd say, thank you. Born in 1963, he's one of the greatest horror mangaka of all time, one of my absolute favorite artists, and I could genuinely just look at his work all day. But in lieu of that, I'm going to wear his work all day. Hi, I'm Madison Lee, Maddie if we're friends, Mad Dog if you're nasty, and today I'll be showing you how I made my Uzumaki jacket. Primed it with gesso like a maniac, so it's not super even, but it is a test. I've got my supplies, I've got my salt and vinegar chips, I'm ready to rock. The gesso gives it a nice tooth, so what I wanted to do was just start with the pencil line, but I did find that erasing the pencil line from the gesso was really, really hard, so I had to repaint those areas. I used black Poscas with 3 different sizes to get the general shape in, and what I wanted to do is make sure that I was maintaining Ito's line work. And I found out that everything is lines, you guys. So the image is completely lines. The lines for the mouth are drawn vertically. The lines, everything is vertical. It's a work of art. So this is actually a bit of a test jacket. I have this manga jacket planned. It's going to be like a mangaka jacket, like a man jacket. I'll work on the title, but I'm going to wear it to the Oddities and Curiosities Expo this year, so I really wanted to see how the Posca would behave. The thing that I found is that it did get quite streaky, and what I didn't like, and you find this with a lot of black inks, is that in that streakiness, it's not a true black. It might be like a brown or a red, sometimes a really, really dark blue if it's like special grey with the Posca. Um, but what I found was it was clashing too much with the glossy black of the jacket. So what I ended up doing when I tried to cover up my slap happy gesso splotches is use a paint. A little note on my gesso job, I do actually know what I'm doing, but because this is a test, I kind of just did it as a spur of the moment thing. And I was like, yeah, I'll prime it, it'll be fine. And I got it absolutely everywhere. Generally, when you're priming, you want to make sure that you're always priming in the same direction so the base is really nice and uniform. And I will be doing that for the Mun jacket. But given that this was more to see how detailed I could make a jacket, I was a little bit slap happy. The black paint I ended up using is Musso Blackest Black Paint. So it's not the Stuart Semple one. It's a different brand. The Stuart Semple one isn't available to order in my country at the moment, but this brand's really, really good. And what I find is that it dries like velvet, but it can clash with other inks. So while I wanted to leave the white areas in the hair for the highlight, I ended up having to leave them because they looked more like balding patches with the velvety look of the black paint. So I ended up covering the whole hair with black and then going back in and adding in the white highlights later when I went over the areas that I had to cover up from the pencil lines. Now, just to circle back to Junji Ito being a god, everything in the line work here is vertical, like I mentioned earlier, and that is to give the whole scene a really drawn down effect and give everything a little bit more drama. So she's obviously having a bad day, her head's caved in. Honestly, I've had cold sores that feel like that. But what the line work does is it gives a real heaviness to the piece and it gives a sense of looming and dread, which Ito does so well. Oh my god. So yes, I have fessed up to being an animal with the gesso for this one, but I will say that when I did the black paint, I tried to make sure that all of my lines were even and going in the direction of the shape. So what I mean by this, and my painters, you'll get it, is when you paint an area solidly, you don't want to give any texture to that. Like you want it to be flat in the sense that it's a solid base to work on, and that's what I wanted for the hair. Obviously, if you're doing like a sunset and you want value and all that kind of stuff, that's different. But you don't want big splotches of paint that, depending on the material, are going to dry as raised big splotches of paint and just look really icky. And, again, it depends. You might be into that kind of thing. For this, I'm not. So I just wanted to maintain that her bob was on point, even if her face is not. Now, Uzumaki is obviously a manga, but it's been a video game. It's also been an anime series on Adult Swim. And if you haven't seen it or watched it or interacted with it at all, you still would have seen the work from it. Like, this is a really iconic manga panel. But to give you a little refresher without spoiling anything, Uzumaki follows Kyrie and her boyfriend Shuichi in their small town where there's just spirals left and right. Like the grass is spirals, the smoke is spirals, people's hair is spirals, and people are going nuts over these spirals. And gradually, things are just getting worse. The citizens are becoming snails, for example. Like it's not a good time. It causes the smoke from the crematoriums to form spirals in the sky. It turns the lighthouse into a furnace. It makes whoever looks at the lighthouse walk in circles and creates whirlwinds and whirlpools and turns everything into spirals. So it really is a problem. And it follows Shuichi and Kyrie as they're trying to navigate this. Kyrie gets a pixie cut, which it's very Princess Diana, but she had to get it. But it is a really, really good series, and you absolutely should read it as soon as you finish, or watch it as soon as you finish watching this video. So once I had my lines in, and I did that majority with, again, the Posca, I realized that her face was still a little bit wide and I had to narrow it a bit. But I also used a grey Posca mixed with a white Posca to create the grey base. So the thing with Posca on the gesso is that it is quite streaky. So what I was doing was I was using my more full painty white pen and layering it with the grey and then blending it with a paintbrush. I didn't mind the texture, but I needed to make sure that it was going vertically as well. So any visible lines in the grey also had to be the same direction as the lines going down in the work that make up her lips, that make up her face. Uh, the really cool thing with this, the more I looked at it, like it was a really fun exercise for me, was looking at how this piece that looks so intricate and masterfully put together, when you get closer, they're like scribbles going into scribbles to create the cave in on her face. And that was so cool. Like, it's just scribbles, you guys, but that's what art is. It's just lines, and you arrange the lines and it looks like something. And it really is magical. Um, I did some hatching along the edges of her face. What I did find the Posca, particularly the thin one, is it was kind of getting a little bit gunked up by the gesso, and I needed to make sure that I was cleaning it regularly. I did spirals on the lapels of the jacket. Whenever I do custom jackets and clothes, I like to have a little bit of variation so it's not just the back that's painted. There's fun little things all around. So I filled the whole side lapel but left the right hand side to get a little bit of asymmetry. And look, voila! Oh my god. Who is she? What do we name her? We should like, follow, and subscribe. She works so hard on this jacket, you guys. Not to toot my own horn, but toot toot. I think this looks really nice, very trendy, very chic. I'll wear it to all the parties I ever get invited to until I make my next jacket. I have a plan for one that's like all different manga panels, and I think it'll look really, really cool. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. You can head over to my website, maddoginc.com.au, if you want to grab your own custom piece. I also have a Patreon with exclusive content, early access, a print club, a secret shop, and a monthly Mad Dog Masterclass. If that sounds like it might be up your alley, head on over. Otherwise, stay creepy and I'll see you next time.